What's up, guys? It's Johnny D. I wanted to come back with some more training with regard to our setters, and today is the day. So here we are. I'm in my makeshift office. Got my mic. I'm ready to go. Hopefully, you guys are ready to go. So setters, as you guys know, the setting position here at Anton is an important one. It's how you engage our initial engagement, rather, with other real estate agents and brokers that may or may not be, thinking about coming over to Anton, or at least getting that appointment set for that. That's why you're a setter. Or maybe it's just if they don't come over to Anton, it's getting to be a part of our training. Our flagship product is the Agent Broker Blueprint, the best training for real estate agents and brokers around. So it'll be one of those two things. A setter really is looking to set that appointment with somebody to close them on one of those two things. And so I went over the scripts. You may or may not have already seen that training. I wanted to give this a supplement training to help you with cold calls. Cold calling is really interesting to me, and it's not for the faint of heart. But I'll tell you, it's surprising to me at the people that are good at cold calling. I've been around a number of people that are fantastic at cold calling. As a matter of fact, I've done a lot of that myself in all of our companies. So today, I want to go over, I don't know how many, I got a ton, let's call it 11 tips for you with cold calling. If you haven't done it before, first of all, breathe. It's going to be okay. I'm going to get you through this. If you've never cold called somebody before, that's actually maybe even better than if you have done a lot of it with bad habits. So let's go through these 11 things. I will keep you kind of engaged with this, but I think if you can do these 11 things, or the majority of them, you're going to be an excellent cold caller. And as a setter, all you're doing is setting that appointment. That's it. That's all you're doing. But these cold calling skills will be vital for you to have success. And you guys will all get this. I know you will. So number one, let's not hold back on this. Number one, do not wait to get motivated. Do not wait to get motivated. What does that mean? Well, the phone, okay? The phone could be sitting here for a long time, and I'll be looking at it like, I'm going to get to this cold call. I'm going to get to this cold call. And I've got my list here, or list on the computer, and I wait. I go get another cup of coffee. I maybe get online. I do something like that. All I'm doing is procrastinating. Okay. My message to all cold callers is just get in there, do a little bit of warming up, get through your scripts, do a couple of reps with those. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. Have your coffee already ready to go. Right now it's my coconut water, and be ready. Like, get in the mood. The message here in tip number one is pick up the phone, man. Don't wait to get motivated. Pick up the phone. Just do it. That's the best message that I can give anybody, because if you're waiting to get motivated in cold calling, you're probably not going to do that. So that would be my advice to everyone, is put yourself in a position where you've got your list, you're ready to go, your mindset is in the right place, and you start picking up the phone and you start dialing. That's where people have the best success. Number two, let's talk about this one. Set a daily dial limit. Now, sometimes we have cold callers, sometimes we have setters that are say, I'm going to call from 8 to 9, or I'm going to call from 7:30 to 8:30, or I'm going to call from 8 to 11, or whatever the time frame may be. Don't set your goal by time. Set your goal by the number of calls that you're going to make in that day. Your dial goal, as it's called. What is your dial goal? So, you might block an hour out of time, but have a goal for that. Hey, I'm going to make 15 calls. I'm going to make 12 calls. I'm going to make 20 calls. Now, with a setter, even if you're going through the script, you get somebody on the line, they're ready to go, you're probably not going to spend more than 6-8 minutes at the most with anybody that you're talking to. If it's 20 minutes, you're probably not doing this right. This is a 6 to 8 minute call at the most, and you can do a lot of those in an hour. So start to think about what your goal is for the day, or maybe in that time slot of how many calls that you want to make. I think, anywhere from 15 to 30 calls an hour, 15 times, let me just put this into perspective. 15 times 6 minutes is already 90 minutes. How can you do that in an hour? Well, John, not everybody's going to pick up. Okay. So we're assuming that most people don't pick up and some people do. Focus on the number of dials, not the time. And because you're going to have people that don't pick up. So you're just going to, didn't pick up, leave a message. You have a script for that, by the way. Dial another one. Didn't pick up, leave a message. You have a script for that, by the way. And so that's why getting through those calls. If everybody picked up and you spent at least 6 minutes on the phone with them, of course you're going to have more time than the hour that you have set aside. But again, most of these calls are going to take anywhere from 6 to 8 minutes, if done right, maybe even less than that. But for the most part, we're assuming that a lot of people, or a majority of people, don't pick up. Don't take that personally. That's just is what's going to happen here. It's the ones that do pick up is where you're fishing. That's all you're doing. You're fishing, and it's the ones that do pick up is where you're going to really have your call to action. This ties into also the number of appointments you make and directly into how successful you're going to be in this position as a setter and as sales overall. So keep that in mind. Dials, how many dials in an hour? What is your goal of dials or goal of calls? Number three, know your first 7 seconds cold. We talked in the other training about how important the first 4 seconds were, but I think it's important to think about what you're going to say in the first 7 seconds of a call. Let's go over what 7 seconds is. It's a long time. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000, 7 1,000. You're going to be talking for that amount of time at the most, but think about how much time that is. And if you go back to our training, you'll know that people make a decision whether to stay on the phone with you for the first 4 seconds of that call while on the phone. In person, it's much shorter, but on the phone, it's the first 4 seconds. Remember, this is where we talk about tonality being very, very important. But know your first 7 seconds of what you're going to say cold. Again, the first 4 seconds are important for them to make a decision on what you're doing, but know what you're going to say. Think of something, we call this pattern interrupt. What does this mean, pattern interrupt? Well, someone has a daily routine that they're on, and the moment you call them, you've got 4 seconds to say something or to have a tonality that is going to make them say or think, I should probably stay on the phone here for a while and listen to this person. It's called pattern interrupt. You change things up a little bit. So I'm going to give you a pattern interrupt a little bit later in this training that I think is really good and different than maybe what you are thinking about. We'll talk more about that here in the moment. But again, you want to catch them where they will give you more time. That's what you want. You're fishing. All you're doing when they pick up that phone, you want them to give you that time. Hey, I should listen to this person, kind of thing. So remember that. Well, let me give you matter of fact, let me give you the pattern interrupt now. I was going to give it to you later, but I'll let you marinate with this a little bit. So when you get in and you say, let's say our prospect's name is Jill. So you might say, "Hi, Jill. How are you doing?" That's a very common thing to say, but that's not a pattern interrupt. For the most part, it's not a pattern interrupt. What would be a better thing to say, and this is not on your script, you may want to change this, by the way. But a better thing to say is, "Hey, Jill, how have you been? This is John from Anton Agency." So, how have you been is different than how are you doing. Obviously, we're talking about the past. How have you been? They immediately think back of how they've been and who this is, rather than how are you doing, which is the most common way to pick up the phone and listen to somebody trying to sell you something. "Hey, how are you doing today?" "Oh boy, I'm being sold something." But we say, "Hey, Jill, how have you been?" That is different. It's a little switch there, but that's what we call a pattern interrupt with sales and with sales calls. So you may want to try that again. It's not on your script. I would change your script and put this in, "How have you been?" rather than "How are you doing?" I think it's going to be a great pattern interrupt for you, and one that will work really, really well with the setter position. Number 4, make this cold calling scenario a game. Have fun with it. Gosh, don't take rejection uh, seriously or personally. Um, I Well, I'll be real with you guys. I've been rejected once or twice before in my life, maybe more than that. But don't take rejection personally. This is part of the process with sales calls and with cold calls. And if you can let that kind of roll off your back at the end of that call, if it is a negative call and you get rejection, and then immediately pick that phone up and go right back at it. Um, I think that's the best thing to do. Sales is a game. It's why they keep stats in games, football games, basketball games, baseball games, is because it's a game. In sales, we keep stats because it's a game. So treat it as such. I think it's going to be a lot better for you. Um, by the way, these people that you're calling probably 99.999% of the time do not know you. So they have no idea who you are. So again, don't take it personally when you do get a rejection. Let's talk about what would happen if they were to be negative. You get a rejection on the phone, or they're snippy or evil or whatever it is. If you get somebody that's rude or snippy on the phone, what I found that works really well is I immediately start to get playful with them in a professional way. So if you're getting a negative result, get a little playful, get a little creative, and have it roll right off your back, and really don't think about it again. Oh, I can see, well, I can understand you're having, it sounds like you're having a challenging day. I definitely don't want to add to that. I'm here to improve people's lives. So I definitely appreciate you taking my call for the little bit of time, and I'm going to let you go. Just have fun with it. Roll right on to the next call. Now, here's the important thing. It is important to not end your day on a bad call in telesales, in cold calling, being a setter. Do not end your day on a bad call. Call it, something that I forget what they call that. When you don't want to step over a line, or you're not skeptical, you're anyway, call it good bad luck. It's bad luck if you end your call on a bad day. So always try to end your call on a good day, or end your call on a positive message that you're leaving for somebody else. I think it will help you move on to the next deal. I think that will be probably a pretty good rule to follow here. The next one, let's go to the next one. Number 5, call really early and really late. Do not call midday. I mean, what's midday? Midday is from 10 to 2, the driving 10 to 2, but think of the clock. That's midday. That's when people are their busiest. I would even stretch that a little bit. You can go to 9 to 5 if you wanted to. I think you're going to have more success from 7:30 to 9. I know that's crazy. Um, and from after 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, um, you'll get into your own schedule with that. But try not to call midday. 10 to 2, I think, is the busiest part of the day for people. Let's face it, when people are say they're working, they're really not working. I mean, I know a lot of people that say they're working, but they're not. They're online, they're reading stuff, they're relaxing, they're doing whatever. And so, if you can catch them when they are not at their busiest point, I think that that would be a good scenario for you. I was just taking some notes here. The majority of people are making either sales calls or getting sales calls or working or in operations, whatever it is, especially as real estate agents, they're probably sales calls. And in the early afternoon, so from say 9:30 to 11:30 and from 1 to 3. That's what I think the busiest parts of the day. Call it 10 to 2 if you want. But I think they're getting bombarded. And I think if you call outside of those normal business hours for a real estate person, professional, I think you're going to have better success. Also, remember, you're calling real estate agents. They should be on the clock 24/7. So if you're calling at 7 o'clock at night, or 7:30 in the morning, don't feel like you're reaching out to a regular 9 to 5er, because typically real estate agents are showing houses at 8 o'clock at night in the summer, and hopefully up early. Most of them are. Well, I shouldn't say most of them. Some of them are, the good ones anyway. So think about that. You're not dealing with a traditional 9 to 5er. Okay. Number 6, when you're calling this, when I was doing the notes on this, I thought about how I was going to put this. Have you ever met a DJ and they got this crazy radio voice? Hey, how you doing today? Good morning, Cincinnati. That's not what you want to do when you're calling for the phone. And in the previous training, we talked about there's a sweet spot that when you're calling them and you have your energy level and your tonality and things like that, you want to get yourself in a position when you're in this sweet spot where it's not too hypey and it's not too relaxed, where you're like that. So it's right in the sweet spot. So avoid the sales voice, avoid the radio voice, and avoid the sales voice. Think about tonality, of course, like we keep saying, that's so important on the phone. A good rule of thumb would be to act like a professional in the real estate arena. Let me explain what I mean by that. Because you're calling real estate agents, and when you say, hey, Jill, this is John from Anton Agency. How are you today? Or let me rephrase that. Hey, Jill, this is John from Anton Agency. How have you been? Or something like that. I'm ending on an uptone. We talked about that the other day. But also, when you're saying it that way, because real estate agents that are licensed or in the business, they're getting calls from agencies all the time. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're expecting this to be a sales call. You actually have an inside advantage because of that. And you'll get this down. You'll have a situation where you feel like you'll get comfortable with this. And you have a secret, you have an upside on strategy there over other people that are selling stuff, because you're calling on behalf of Anton Agency, a real estate company. They get calls from real estate companies all the time. So your first 4 seconds may not seem much different from a lot of other calls that they're getting. And that's the inside advantage that you have over other people. So that's really good news. Number 7, and I'll say it again, and with these notes, I probably overdid this a little bit. This is that pattern interrupt. Notice when I do that, clap. Physically, something's going on. If I was in front of an audience and I did boom, sometimes I'll do that if I'm in front of somebody on a sales call or I'm sitting at a table, because people get caught up in their own life. They might be sitting with me, but they're thinking somewhere else. And if I can interrupt that pattern by just going, hey, how you doing today? Or if I'm on stage, or with my kids a lot, I do that. They can be watching their iPad or doing whatever they do, and I will make a loud noise, and they'll suddenly jar them from where they were in their mind. They were actually in a trance, quite like being um, hypnotized. Same thing, same rule of thumb here. How do you get them out of that trance and focused on you? Because that's where we want them. So pattern interrupts become really, really important. That is the first 4 to 7 seconds, really the first 7 seconds, but they make the decision on the first 4 seconds. Um, of the call. So make sure that you understand that pattern interrupt. It's really good. Of how have you been? Just using that little thing is a really good example of that. Another way to say this is break what they are expecting. Break what they're expecting. Um, you could say something like this: "Hey, George, John Dessauer here, and am I interrupting something with you right now?" Just something like that. That would be a pattern interrupt. So think about that. Pattern interrupts are important, and they're really important for a cold caller and a setter in this position. Number 8. A lot of cold callers don't have this. A lot of setters don't have this. Have a contingency plan. What does that mean? Well, when you call somebody on the phone and it goes bad immediately, what do? That's when that's when the cold caller starts to freak out a little bit. They don't really know what to do. And the first thing that I would tell you to do is, number 1, breathe. They don't know you. They don't know who you are. It's going to be okay. Number 1. Number 2, when a prospect is trying to get off the phone immediately with you, what is your plan B? This is where it takes guts, and it really takes the ability to be bold. Cold callers are bold. So it's really the ability to be bold. And so it would go something like this. It would go, Tom, I know you're really, really busy, but you're really not aware of what I'm going to talk about here. Can I just take a quick 30 seconds and explain what I'm talking about here? That's it. A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people will say yes. When you put yourself in the position of asking for permission, in this case, a lot of times they will take that and it'll work. Sometimes it won't work, but when you're asking for permission, so you're going to go, "Hey, Tom, this is John." Let me rephrase that. "Hey, Tom, this is John from Anton Agency. How have you been?" And that's my pattern interrupt in this particular instance. And they'll say, "John, I'm not sure who this is. Listen, I'm really busy right now. I don't have the time." Always, always, as we learned from the previous training and this one here, and the trainings that you're going to get, when you get an objection from somebody or anybody, agree with that objection. What that does is put you on their side of the table, or their side of the phone, if you want to think about it like that. Agree with their objection, and then come right back and say something like this: "Oh, Tom, I totally understand that. Listen, you're not really sure about what I'm going to be talking about. Can I just take a quick 30 seconds and tell you about this so that you have an understanding of what this call's about? Would you be open to that?" That type of thing, where I'm asking for permission, then puts them in this elevated spot. Um, a lot of people talk about posture in sales. They get it wrong, by the way. Posture in sales is sometimes elevating your prospect, not talking down to the person, but elevating the prospect. And it works. People like to feel like they're in an elevated position. And this works if you're selling cars. This works if you're selling appointments. And this works here in the setter role sometimes. So when you're getting a negative call, one of your contingency plans would be to agree with them, number 1. Number 2, ask for permission. "Hey, would it be okay if ... 30 seconds, whatever that is." And number 3, putting them in a posture position of elevation. They're higher than you. I'm telling you, it works. People like to be elevated. They like to be treated like a queen or a king. kind of thing, and then their disposition changes. You'll see that in this. So when you get in, don't forget your contingency plans, because you will call somebody and they will be upset that you're calling them. They will be mad or pissed that you're calling them. Have your contingency plans ready. It's going to be okay. So at that point, just a couple other things with your contingency plan. At that point, if the call's going sideways and you try those three things, number four. So number one would be to, I guess, take a breath, right? Number two, uh, ask them for permission, right? Number three, positioning or posture with this, elevate them. But number four, if this is really going off the rails, take a risk. Go, hey man, I'm calling you because I've got a fantastic situation where you, as a real estate agent, I can help you make more money in the next 12 months and save working hours in doing that. Interested? So you're then starting to take a little risk, start to get bold there. You have nothing to lose at that point because the call is going off the rails. So don't be afraid to take some risks. And that is number four there. Again, don't worry about screwing up taking a risk, because again, you have nothing to lose. And remember this saying, with what you're doing on these calls, some will, some won't. Right? So let's just repeat that. Some will, some won't. So what? Let's move on. Some will, they're going to take your call and listen to you. Some won't. Who cares? Or so what? Let's move on to the next call. That's how you have to approach this whole thing as a setter. And in this position, you're going to be in much better shape if you have that kind of attitude for it. And sometimes, by the way, the reverse will happen. You're going to get a talker on the phone. It's going to go great. They're going to be talking to you. And at that point, they're selling you. You're actually not closing them on the appointment. They're selling you on whatever it is they want to talk about. You've got to be bold and somewhat control that conversation to get that appointment sold. So don't think that a negative call is somebody that's upset. A negative call could be one that the prospect is taking you off of your mission in selling that. As a matter of fact, that's one of the ways that people, when they feel like they're getting sold, they feel like they can escape that by selling the salesperson. The prospect becomes the salesman and you become the person being sold to. So make sure that you are watching that. Let's see, that was number 8, have a contingency plan. Number 9, get them talking. You have asked them a question in your pattern interrupt of how have you been? Listen to them, get them talking. Well, they might say something like, you know what, I've been working a lot of hours. We're just trying to make it happen every day. You know what I mean, John? I certainly do, Tom. I know how busy people are, and sometimes they can get lost in that work and time flies by. As a matter of fact, that's what my call's about today. Would you have 30 seconds to talk about how you could make more money as a real estate agent and save time in doing it? You see, I just rolled with that. That's a great way to take your pattern interrupt and the response from the prospect and continue to roll into your script. You're going to get good with that as you practice, but that's one way that you can do that. But get the prospect talking. Remember, people love talking about themselves. I know I do. I mean, I talk about myself all the time. Now, it can get to, I'm just playing, it can get to a point where you're talking too much about yourself. So you have to be self-aware of that. But you guys know people that are not self-aware of that right now. You're thinking of them right now. You're like, yeah, that dude does talk a lot about himself. So just remember that. Engage the prospect in a conversation that gets them talking. You really kind of want to suck them in a position that not only gets them talking, but you're asking questions that are getting them engaged in the topic. Making more money as a real estate agent, saving more time in doing it so that they have the best business ever or the best business possible. So questions to do that would be like, hey, does that make sense to you, Tom? Or another question would be like, you could agree with that, right, Tom? And so in those situations, you're looking for yes and no. And I like closed ended questions. You'll notice those from the script. I like closed ended questions because it controls the conversation, yes or no, red or blue, Wednesday, Thursday, as opposed to open ended questions, which kind of draws out information from them that you're looking for in a much bigger scale. The talkers are ones that take open-ended questions and they run on and on and on and on and on. So you're going to have to be, that's where you're going to have to be bold and really kind of control that conversation. So get them talking, really important. That's number 9. Number 10, there's 2 more. Number 10 is always close them for the next step. Remember, your sole job here is to sell that appointment. And so in selling that appointment, typical salespeople spend a significant amount of time, even more time than they should, discussing what the next steps are, rather than confirming the time and appointment and who will be there. In other words, when you discuss what's going to happen, stop discussing it. Talk to them about, hey, we got you down for 1:30. Is there anybody else that should be on that phone call at 1:30? A lot of times real estate agents do work with their spouse or they have a business partner, things like that. Is there anybody else that would be required to be on that call? Boom. And then, great. Can you do me a favor? I'm writing this down right now in Carlos's appointment. I'm putting this on his calendar right now. Can you do me a favor? Can you put that down on yours so we're assured that we're not going to miss this call? And then the last thing is I always try to button them down. And this kind of goes into the last part here on number 10. Confirm, like, is there any reason, Tom, why you wouldn't be able to make this call tomorrow at 1:30? Button them down, lock them up, tighten, make sure that's tight, because sometimes people will find any excuse not to be on that call. Life gets in the way. Another appointment came up. Someone else was a better salesperson. They got a position in front of you. I don't know. Probably not the case here. You guys are all fantastic, but you get my point. Button them up, lock them down, and say that question. Hey, Tom, is there any reason why you wouldn't be able to make this phone call tomorrow? Oh, okay, great. That's perfect. Because sometimes, when people miss a call, it throws our schedule off. And of course, we want to make sure that you're on track as well with your schedule. See how I'm doing that? Just rolling right into that. And then finally, number 11, and I'm going to let you guys go. Finally, number 11, a really good thing for setters and cold callers to do is this: warm up as much as possible. And there's 3 ways that I want you to think about warming up. Number 1, warm up with your scripts. Scripts are important, but you're going to have your own way to say those. I don't expect everybody to stay with the script. Think of your favorite TV show. Think of your favorite movie. And because sometimes I get people say, well, why do I have to have a script? I mean, I'm better selling without a script. I've said that a lot. I do say that. And that's true, but you need to have some framework. You need to have some a skeleton of your body here, a skeleton of what you're going to say, i.e. the script, that is going to guide you a little bit. Then you can get creative and use your own things to kind of go, make you a better salesperson here. But have a script, go through it, practice it. Your favorite movie, your favorite TV show always originally started off in scripts, and then the actor takes it from there, right? You are the actor in this case, being the cold caller and the seller. But warm up with your scripts. Do a couple of reps with that. Do a couple of reps in the mirror. Think about your tonality. Think about how you're sitting. Think about the words that you're saying, and think about the first 7 seconds and what kind of tonality you're having with that. The second thing is your body. I'm telling you, even though you're on the phone with them, stretch out, man. Get the blood flowing a little bit, get ready to go, because they can see that. This really is going to, if the blood's flowing, your tonality is going to be better. and they're gonna be able to sense that on the other end of the phone. And then the last thing that I would say is, get a warm conversation going. Have fun with this. Enjoy what you're doing, and take some interest in the prospect that you're saying. They probably have already gotten an email or a text from somebody at Anton, so this may be a warm conversation already. But get this to a warm conversation end. By the end of that call, you're setting that appointment, and you hang up the phone, you're excited. They hang up the phone, they're excited, because they're going to learn how to make more money in the next 12 months, save more time in doing it, build a better business as a real estate agent and broker, and all is good. That is it. That's my 11 tips for cold callers and with setters here with Anton. I think if you do this stuff, you're going to be fantastic. You'll see this position as challenging, but you'll love it. You really will. You'll get into this game format, and this will be something that you can do at home. You can do on your yacht, wherever you are. You can do this, and that's why this is a pretty cool thing. Persistence is the key, but a lot of these 11 things that I just went through are the key as well. That is it, my friends. I'm going to wrap this training up for you today. Good luck with everything you do, and we will see you real soon. Thanks a lot, everybody.